Hello guys, meet my soup stain. Had lunch right before this and I should have known better than to have soup and while wearing a light colored shirt. I'm feeling silly today. Okay, so that is Yo, guys, I just took a sneak peek forward and there's only like 3 more chapters left until the very end. Like 3 after the one that I'm reading in this video. 3 chapters, guys, and it's gonna be done. Oh my God, I'm kind of excited but kind of sad because it's gonna be over. But I've had so much fun doing this series on YouTube for you guys. Drop a comment below if you think I should do some of my other books on YouTube just like this. I mean, it's a little time consuming, but I enjoy it. And so long as you are enjoying it, then I'll bring it to you. It's because it's free, so. But anyway, so hi, I'm Dina, and I am the author that's reading my book called Neesa, first in the original reality book series that's available on Kindle and Kindle Unlimited. So get on it and get it. And if you're new to my channel, then you're coming in at the end. Hello. That's like so strange. So go back to the beginning. There are links below as well as in the video. And start the journey fresh and new, okay? It's been a Neesa story. We got to come up with like a little short name, a couple name for them. What would it be, like Bisa, Benisa, or Rubisa? That's kind of cute. Or Nisen? No, that's not good. That's almost like Nissan. Or like Denise? I don't know. I think it would have to. I think Rubisa is probably the closest. Rubisa. Rubies? I don't know. Anyway, tell me your idea. If you want to ship this couple, tell me what names you would come up with, Denise and Reuben, to ship their name. You know what time it is. It's spoiler time. So all you newbies, before you leave, be sure to like the video, hit subscribe and the little bell icon, because there's going to be more content coming up. Even after the story is over, I'm starting this manifestation series, so you definitely gonna want to get on that. Subscribe to that, because I'm teaching you how to manifest through scripting the author way. Like, isn't that cool? I think it's cool. And it's time for spoilers in 3, 2, 1. That last chapter, chapter 35, was so sweet. Reuben basically came in on his hands and knees groveling. Well, not literally, but you know, he finally confessed. He's throwing in all the chips. He's, for the first time in his life, really just trying to be 100% honest with Neesa, and he's in like sin. And it looks like Denise is giving into it after she really kind of let him, you know, made him grovel for it a little bit, which deservedly so. So let's get to chapter 36 so we can find out how Reuben and Neesa are faring after this whole makeup session. All right, guys, hopefully I can see now. Oh, that's better. Okay, here we go. Oh, yes. Chapter 36, Reuben's perspective. Days later, Reuben found it odd to come home and find the lights on. Oddly comforting, that is. He pulled into his driveway and caught a glimpse of Denise in the kitchen. She'd called earlier to tell him his DNA test results had come in the mail. To commemorate the event, she was making a special dinner. He had crossed that final bridge by declaring his commitment to their relationship, which began with the talk they'd had at Claire's house, where he'd refused to leave without her. She wasn't ready to go home, so back to his house they went, where they began working toward a domestic partnership again. Turned out his unemployment was the best thing for both of them. He had barely left her side the past few days, except for today when she pushed him out the door to get groceries and give her some alone time. As a result, their bond was growing stronger sooner than he could have hoped. Before her unfortunate break-in, she had never stayed at his place. It didn't seem right back then when his house had been a den for meaningless sex. Denise was special, had been from the beginning, and with her in it, his house finally felt like a home. He remembered how surprised she was when she first walked through the door. She'd acted as though he should have lived in a pigsty. With all their differences, it was a huge relief to her that they were on the same page about at least one thing, the most important thing, cleanliness. He parked in the tight single-car garage and, in his enthusiasm to get out, banged the door against the wall. Anxiety made his movements jerky as he stumbled into the driveway, nearly missing the bumper of her Tesla, which he'd parked in the open space for her the day she moved in. He walked inside the French doors off the deck and stepped inside the laundry room. "Lucy, I'm home," he sang. Denise peeked around the door jamb first. She was still skittish about people coming into the home. When she saw it was Reuben, she jogged up to him, waving the letter, and jumped into his arms, wrapping her legs around his waist in a full-body hug. They shared a laugh, and he said, "I've always wanted to say that." She said, "Shall I call you Ricky or Mr. Ricardo?" She trilled her R's in a cat-like purr, and he captured her tongue in a deep kiss. Her face had healed down to a few bruises on her eyelid and the disappearing cut on her lip. The heat from her core penetrated the layers of his clothes, and he instantly grew hard. He said, "I want you to greet me like this every day." With a smile, she said, "Noted." "I can't stand it any longer. Open, open, open." She slid to the floor and almost stepped on Enola. Relieving him of his bag, she shoved the letter in his hand and dragged him by the arm toward his office. Now her office, since he was unemployed. He collapsed into the chair while she propped herself on top of the desk and kicked her legs. He said, "I'm freaking out a little bit here." She said, "Me too. Open it already." He stared into her eyes for a beat, then tore his fingers through the envelope. He was a Band-Aid-off quick kind of guy and unfolded the letter without further ado. A few moments passed as he read the results. Denise blurted, "Oh my God, I'm dying! What does it say?" He paused, his fingers going numb around the paper. "He's not my father." Denise paused too, her smile faltering at the corners. "Wait, what? Let me see that." She snatched it out of his hands, not that he noticed, because the words on the page were emblazoned on his retinas. He heard her whispering as she read the results, then gasped. "Did you read this down here?" No, he hadn't, because he'd stopped at not a father-son match. She said, "It says while you're not a father-son match, there is a relativity match. It's likely Edward Surrey is your uncle?" She looked at him for the answer, but he had none. She said, "How is that possible?" He stared at her, wondering the same thing, but his mind drew a total blank. "I don't know." He shook his head. He felt winded and sick. "None of this makes sense," he said. She said, "Did Edward mention anything about a brother?" He said, "No, he didn't go into much detail. Said it was too painful." She said, "Too painful? So wait, could it be Edward was in Vegas with his brother? And maybe your mom hooked up with both?" She stopped herself. Out loud, it sounded bad. He said, "I don't even know if Edward has a... Wait. The girl at the university said he had a nephew, which means siblings, unless the nephew is on his wife's side of the family." She said, "There's only one way to find out." He said, "My mother never said anything about Eddie having a brother, though. She was adamant he was the father." Neesa said, "I hear you, baby, but these results say different." He leaned back in the chair and ran both hands through his hair, pulling it at the tips. "Leave it to my mom to make things complicated, even in death." He bit his lower lip and continued. If what you're saying is true, then she slept with two brothers, married one, and then told him she was pregnant with the other one's baby, all within a couple of weeks. He shook his head. Sounds like something she'd do. Neesa said, she might not have known which brother you belonged to. I mean, who knows what made her go after Edward and not your real father? Reuben said, right. Neesa said, that also means you're one step closer to meeting your real father. Edward's the key. Reuben said, maybe. Edward had turned out to be great, but what if his real father didn't? She said, why don't you call him? His heart was heavy with guilt. Why did he have to open this can of worms now when things were so great between him and Denise? After what they had both been through, almost losing her twice with the attack, and then his secrets, any bad news threatened to derail the progress they'd made. She slipped into his lap, straddled him, and clasped his face between her palms. She said, hey, I love you. End of story. It's clear to me now that this imperfect mess we call a relationship, this is the fairy tale. And I'm ready to go the distance with you. We do this together. And when we find out the truth, we will carry on to the next chapter and the next after that. His heart swelled to triple its normal size. How did a schmuck like him get so goddamn lucky? He could do anything with Denise at his side. He drew on her strength to grab his phone and swipe the screen. Colorado was an hour ahead, and he imagined what Eddie might be up to at the moment, likely working a night shift. I'm just going to interrupt you for just a second to take care of some business. If you haven't liked the video yet or subscribed, please do so now. And now let's get back to the regular scheduled programming. He pressed the call icon near Eddie's name in his contacts, assuming the guy wouldn't pick up if he were on the job, and then the ringing stopped. Officer Surrey here. A pause. Hello? Reuben pushed the speaker button so Denise could follow along. From the background noise, it sounded as though Eddie was outside. Plus, he was a bit out of breath, as if he had been walking. Reuben said, hi, it's Reuben. Reuben Murray? If this is a bad time, I can... Edward said, no. Hey, Reuben, I can talk. What's up? Reuben took a deep breath, steeling himself with Denise's gaze. I got the paternity results back. Edward said, oh yeah? What did it say? Ben said, well, it says you're not my father. He heard Edward exhale and then say, I'm sorry to hear that. Wow, I'm a little surprised, but you seem like a nice young man. I'm sure you'll find the right guy. Ben said, that's not all. Edward said, oh, well, lay it on me. Ben said, it says we're related and that you could be my uncle. I know it sounds crazy because you didn't mention having any siblings, but does that make any sense to you? There was silence on the other end, and then he heard Eddie curse. That son of a... Yeah, that makes sense. Wow! Reuben could barely stand the suspense. Sounds like there's a story there. Care to elaborate? Edward said, sorry, it takes me back. Yeah, that was the bad stuff I told you about. I don't like to recall it, but I know it's important to you. The whole reason for that trip to Vegas was to visit my brother. He was the one who introduced me to Kitty, matter of fact. He was much older than me, and when he got discharged from the Vietnam War, he moved to Vegas instead of coming home to Missouri. I went there to... Denise began hitting him, mouthing the word Missouri, with a question on her face. Ben said, hold on, Eddie, your family is from Missouri? He asked on her behalf. What part? Edward said, oh, it's a tiny town called Louisiana. It borders the Mississippi River. Doubt you've heard of it since people only think of the state with the Mardi Gras and all that. Denise motioned to Reuben and he covered the phone. She said, that's south of where I grew up, an hour away, tops. Reuben nodded, then checked back in with what Eddie was saying. Brother refused to move back home. He was suffering pretty bad from PTSD, drinking, drugs, and carrying on. My parents sent me there to sort of check on him, see if I could convince him to come back home. They were worried sick, but he wouldn't hear of it. Yeah, we all hung out, Kitty, Travis, and me. That Kitty was a wild one. No disrespect, son. Reuben said, Travis was his name? Edward said, yep, Travis Surrey. That trip, I don't like to think about it because Well, there's no easy way to say it. He went and killed himself a few months after I left. I sort of feel responsible seeing as my parents sent me there to get him to come home, you know? Reuben dropped his face in the palm of his hand and closed his eyes. Blood rushed to his head, making him dizzy. Eddie asked, "You still there?" Reuben said, "Yeah, I'm here," his voice somber. "I guess we know why my mother went after you for paternity and not Travis." Edward said, "Oh, right. Makes sense." After a collective moment of silence, he said, "So I'm your uncle, huh?" "Well, I'm glad for it, son. Actually ecstatic to meet my brother's son. Wow. Maybe we can both get some overdue healing done now. Know what I mean?" The emotion in his uncle's voice made the news of his father's suicide a little less sad. Reuben said, "I do." Edward said, "Welcome to the family, son." Denise shook his shoulders, her eyes full of emotion for Reuben. Reuben said, "Thanks." Edward said, "Don't sound so enthused over there." Reuben laughed. "Yeah, no, I'm just in shock. Now I know who my real father is and that he died before I was born. Crazy." Edward said, "Yeah, son, I hear you. Look, since it's official, and I mean, I'm not your dad, but Brenda would lock me out of the bedroom if I didn't invite you to come visit us sometime. Anytime. She would insist on it, and so do I. Really, I can't wait to get to know you. The son of my lost brother. Wow. So give us a call, will you? I don't have much family left alive, just my sister and her kids. But Brenda has a ton of folks that welcome you with open arms, too. They like to have reunions as often as I change the oil in my truck." He chuckled at his own quip, making Reuben smile. Reuben said, "That'd be great." His chest expanded and warmth poured in, filling him up to the brim. This was what it felt like to belong. He said, "I've never had family before." Edward said, "Not true. I suppose we've been here all along, and all you had to do was look under a rock." He chuckled. "Get it? Boulder? A rock?" Reuben's body jerked with laughter, and he glanced at Denise, who was smiling with tears in her eyes. Reuben said, "You're right. Oh, when I come, I'll have a little family of my own. Denise is the beautiful lady who gave me the swift kick in the ass to come find you." Edward said, "Sure, bring her along. I'll have to thank her in person. That was a bad piece of history between us, and maybe now we can bury the hatchet. Well, I better get back to my rounds. Are you going to be okay with me hanging up now? I, I don't know if you're traumatized or anything." Reuben laughed. "I'm fine. I appreciate the talk." Edward said, "Anytime, son. Anytime. Okay, bye." The phone went silent, and Reuben watched the call disappear from his phone. He sighed as tears gathered in the corners of his eyes. God, I love hearing that. He called me son. Okay, so that is the end of chapter 36. Please stay tuned. There are now 3 chapters left, guys. So it's going to end pretty quickly. And once again, let me know if you think I should continue reading all of my books on YouTube, if you would enjoy them. Please put a comment below, and don't forget to like the video, hit subscribe, ring my bell, and I will see you for chapter 37.